first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. Thanks for joining us. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. We're here every weekday. We start at 1 o'clock. We go throughout the afternoon. We cover a wide range of topics. If you've seen us before, you've heard me say that, but I'd just like to remind everybody. And we get to have some great discussions, and that's what we're going to be doing right now, talking about wasabi, and in particular, some of the issues that come with growing it really anywhere else than where it's from, but in here in the Northwest as well. And there's a new study from Oregon State University talking about that and some of the ways that they have figured out to maybe help make that more of a agricultural crop and just grow it places. And we're going to talk all about this right now. We've got Clint Taylor from Oregon State University and part of this study. And Clint, thank you very much, for joining us here today. And to start off, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself at OSU and what this study is?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I work as a research assistant in the nursery and nursery and greenhouse program here at the North Willamette Research Extension Center. It's part of Oregon State University, and it's just south of Portland, or just south of the metro in Aurora. So we have a little farm out here, and we do different research studies here for ag, and there's berries and hazelnuts, and we do nursery and greenhouse stuff.
Nice, all the good stuff. So talking about wasabi, and I think maybe if you wouldn't mind giving everybody a description in case they don't know, they may be familiar, with wasabi, eating it with food or whatever, but as an actual plant, could you just tell us a little bit about it?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a real interesting plant. It's probably safe to say that it's one of the most difficult to cultivate plants that we grow for food. It's in the mustard family, so it looks kind of like a wild mustard, but it's really, really finicky, and it needs a really narrow range of environmental conditions, and that's why it's really expensive. And most of us haven't even had real wasabi, so most of the time when you get the green paste with your sushi, unless they're bringing it to you and grinding it in front of you, you're probably having horseradish sauce, like with a little bit of green food coloring and maybe just a little bit of dried wasabi powder. But the real wasabi is you normally kind of only get at a fancier sushi place.
I think that's good to know. So basically it'd be like, like the fake crab meat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
so that's good to know, because I had no idea myself. And so what is it about wasabi that makes it so hard to grow? I mean, really, when it comes down to it.
It's got a really narrow band of environmental conditions that it likes, and it's kind of susceptible to diseases. So in Japan, where we think of wasabi from coming from, it is grown in like these little shady kind of mountain streams with like a little babbling brook of like really cold oxygenated water that's like constantly moving through. And then like it doesn't get above 75, it doesn't get below 55. And it's just like really narrow band of environmental conditions. And it only wants, like kind of dappled shade with like trees kind of growing over it, but it needs some light, but not too much light. And then on top of that, like it can get lots of diseases, and you think about, well, it's living in a place full of water. So like it can get like bacterial diseases and fungal diseases. And so we can't grow wasabi here the way they grow wasabi in Japan, because we can't, like dam our little streams and put wasabi in it because of the environmental concerns. It would be bad for habitats and salmon and things like that. So we'll have to try to figure out to grow it a different way. And then that can be tricky because you're trying to replicate a system that's got a lot of environmental parameters.
Yeah, that's a lot of factors going into it. That is one finicky plant.
Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, I killed a lot of it. So, I mean, we got enough of it to grow, but there was high casualties for a while.
Well, okay, let's talk about, how it is you overcome all of those obstacles to try to grow real wasabi outside of that narrow little area in Japan.
Yeah, there's one grower, there might be more than one grower, but there is a grower that grows wasabi commercially here in Oregon. in the Coast Range, and that's Oregon Coast wasabi. And so they've been doing it for years, and they've got a system down, and they grow it in pots, and they grow it in the greenhouses with shade and all these different things. And they reached out to someone at OSU to ask for some help to like see if they can dial in some of their environmental conditions. And then that person reached out to Lloyd Knackley, my boss, and I, because we do, plant physiology research in greenhouses. And so that's how this project came to be. And what we figured out with this project was we didn't figure out all of the things you need to know, but we figured out a couple of things. So we figured out like exactly the light that wasabi wants to grow in. And so like you could use your shade cloth and the light meter, or your lights, it's the wintertime, and you could dial in that light to be the exact amount of light that the wasabi needs. And then another thing we figured out was how wet they need to be if they're in pots. So that was kind of a question because, like they need to be, they're growing in pots, so it's different from a river. So what kind of media do you want to put in the pots? You want something that holds on to a lot of moisture, but also that drains fast enough that it's not stagnant, because then you'll get diseases. So we tried a couple different media types, and we settled on like cocoa coir, like shredded coconut husks, which is used in hydroponics. And it worked out pretty well because it would dry out fast enough, but not dry out too fast. So that kind of Goldilocks zone, which is, I think, what wasabi is all about, is finding the Goldilocks zone to like where that thin little layer of that the plant likes to be happy at.
That one specific spot. I mean, and which is amazing that you've been able to figure this out. So I guess at the end of the day, I want to talk about the study and just what this would mean too. So for the study, you figured out those two things.
Yeah, we figured out the light, so we feel pretty confident about like you saw that there's a machine that was hooked up to the leaf, and that changes its light level, and it actually reads the photosynthesis levels coming off of the leaf. And so we did that quite a few times, and we ran the numbers and did the stats, and we can see at what level of light is the plant doing the most photosynthesis before it's too much light, or like where it's not enough light. And that's like 800 micromoles per meter square, which is like a unit of light measurement for greenhouses. And then you can see right now they're on these little scales, and that was weighing the plant, and that was telling us how much water was in that pot. So it was reading every 5 minutes as the plant got lighter, it's getting drier and drier. And then we would track that, and we'd hook it up to another machine to its leaf to see when the photosynthesis stopped. And basically, once it was 90%, it was still 90% wet. Like you would still think it's wet. Like if you stuck your finger in that pot, it's wet. It's like touching a wet sponge, but it's not a sopping wet sponge, but it's like a wet sponge. And there was not enough water in there for it. Like it didn't like that. So it needs to be really wet all the time, but with fresh water. Yeah, it's a finicky little guy.
That really is. There's so much technology involved in this.
Oh yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to play with all the little tools and gizmos. I have one right here. It's like it's when we clamp onto the leaves. You can see it was in one of the pictures, and it'll tell us how much photosynthesis a plant is doing, which is a real fun thing to play around with. So
that's super fun. So you just clamp it on there, and it'll tell you exactly what's going on.
Yeah, it'll tell us how much. It's called somatal conductance, but it's kind of like how open are the stoma on the leaf. So how much photosynthesis is going on, we can kind of guess with that.
Wow. And so with all of this research and this study now of figuring out some of these things, what does this mean for growing wasabi? Does this make it more accessible for more people to try to grow it as an agricultural crop?
I think so. It's like it's one piece of the puzzle. My boss likes to call it like it's the little grain of sand, one grain at a time. We build a mountain with science. Every paper that comes out is a little grain of sand, and eventually you have a mountain. So I think that it's one little piece of the puzzle. And before this, it was unknown, and so now you could find the next piece. Which I think would be interesting if we do another study would be, well, now we know the light and the water. Let's keep those all the same. And then we can change different other things. What's the humidity levels that it would like, or temperatures, or there's nothing really known about what fertilizer requirements that it has, which is like a big question. So that would be fun to play around with and keep dialing it in and tweaking it and figuring out, a little bit more and more over time.
Did this give you access to a whole lot of wasabi?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. And what's fun is the leaves taste really good. So I don't know if you could find them anywhere here, like in a market, but if you grow it at home, and you can buy these plants and grow them at home, you can pull the leaves off, and they taste really, really floral and kind of spicy, which is apparently what the real wasabi tastes like. It's like really floral and spicy and fun. But yeah, it was nice to like kind of graze, off the wasabi every now and then and get a little treat.
Yeah, now I really, really want to try real wasabi, because the more you're talking about it, I'm pretty sure I have not before. Now that I know this much information on it. What else do you think is really important for people to know just about the study and in general?
Oh, I don't know. I think that growing plants it's always an experiment, like people always say, oh, I have a black thumb, I can't grow plants. You're like, well, I've killed most of my plants. It's kind of a numbers game. Like you just experiment and you figure out what each plant likes and where, or kind of like what kind of neglect it can handle that you give it. I don't know, I think that if we can figure out these little details of this finicky little plant, then everybody can figure out how to grow whatever they want to grow if they keep a little journal and take some notes and do their own little experiments at home.
You can figure it out and not kill.
Yeah, you can figure it out.
Some will survive.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Yeah, and I just want to say thanks to Jennifer Blauser at Oregon Coast Wasabi, who helped kind of start this by talking to Chip Bubel over at OSU, and thanks to them for getting the ball rolling on this. It was a really fun experiment and really fun to play around with these plants that are really finicky, but it was really rewarding whenever we could get them to grow. So,
I mean, that's really cool. Yeah, to have something that finicky and then go through all of those experiments and then figure it out. Like, boom, here's the magic number, and you got a cool machine and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we can hook that up to other plants and figure out what they like, and yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, we did one on house plants where we hooked the same machine up to house plants, and we saw what kind of light that, like, philodendrons and monsteras like. So that was cool too.
That is, I believe I'm looking at one right now, here in the office. Well, thank you for joining us. Just to talk about this. This is really cool and great conversation about it. And for people who want to learn more, what's the best place for them to go to follow along with your study?
OSU Extension has a website full of all kinds of great resources for people who are looking to learn more about anything agricultural or gardening. And then this paper was published in Hort Science. So that's a public journal that is all free for anyone to download and look at any of the papers. So it's Horticultural Science by the American Society of Horticultural Science. So check those places out, Oregon State and Hort Sci. So.
All right. Clint, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
And for everybody watching, this is Fox 12 Now. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in a minute with more. And if there's breaking news that happens between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. every day, I'll be here for you with that. But for right now, just take a break and we'll talk to you with more Fox 12 Now.